Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted and honored that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. We have two wonderful guests for you today. Amanda Malek Ahmadi will be here a little bit later on to celebrate 10 ballet dancers. And first, we'll be meeting Claerie Kavanugh. She's here to celebrate her debut middle grade novel, Wilds, Warnings, and Little Wolves. Before we invite Claerie into the studio, we want to invite you and strongly encourage you to subscribe to the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Podbean, Ghana, Himalaya. You kind of get the drift. Wherever you find your podcast, you can find the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We don't want you to miss any of the amazing guests that we have coming on the show. Dr. Michael Waters will be here to celebrate Liberty's Civil Rights Road. Chris Eliopoulos will be returning to the show to celebrate The Giggles Are Coming. Dr. Michael Pellico, he is the producer of Skater Girl, a fantastic movie on Netflix. He'll be here to celebrate his children's series. Kyle Burnham, the author of 2 Reading with Your Kids certified great reads, K.E. Burr, will be here to celebrate When the World Turned Upside Down. Karen Parsons will be back on the show. Kathleen Pelly, celebrating 5 Little Angels. Eliza Wiseman will be here to celebrate The Renegade Reporters. Diane Deonda will be here to celebrate 21 Cousins. You kind of get it, right? There's lots and lots and lots of amazing guests coming up on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We don't want you to miss an episode. So please be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast. And of course, please visit readingwithyourkids.com. Sign up for our free newsletter so you don't miss a thing. You can also listen to the podcast right from our website. Joining us right now from St. Louis in Missouri, our guest is on tonight to celebrate her debut middle grade novel. It's called Wilds, Warnings, and Little Wolves. Please welcome to the show, Claerie Kavanugh. Claerie, welcome to the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so delighted to be on.
I'm delighted to have you on. Tell us all about Wilds, Warnings, and Little Wolves, please.
So this is kind of a funny story because it wasn't even originally supposed to be a book. It came about, let's see, by the time this podcast is going to be published, it came out, I came up with the idea in March of 2021 because a friend of mine had sent me a prompt for an anthology that really wanted a book of werewolf stories. Well, I told her, I was like, I don't have time to write another book right now. I'm on deadline for something else. But I couldn't get the idea of my middle grade character coming across a werewolf pup. Well, she had her family went camping out of my head. So I just started writing, and 2 weeks later, a book was done.
Isn't that wonderful? I mean, we talk, we've talked a lot here on the podcast about the writing process and about creativity. And I've shared, there have been a number of times when I've been on stage where ideas just occur to me and I just go with it and I'm riffing and improvising in front of an audience of 500 or 600 kids. And it sounds like this is very much something that similar that happened to you. Your friend gave you a prompt. It stuck. An idea. Sometimes ideas take years to blossom, and sometimes they just get out there.
Yep. That was pretty much how this one went. I kind of always laugh now at it because I told her, I was like, I'm not going to write another book right now. I'm too busy working on this other thing. And then I just couldn't say no to the idea, really. Really.
So that's neat. So tell us about who we're going to meet in Wilds, Warnings, and Little Wolves.
So the main character is an 11-year-old girl named Alyssa, and she is going camping with her dad and his new girlfriend. And she's not really sure how she feels about the new girlfriend just yet. She's not even really sure if they're dating, but she's pretty sure that they are. And so it's kind of about her adjusting to that, and it's also about the fact that when she arrives at the campsite, she finds a poster for a missing boy. But then a couple hours later that night, she finds a little wolf pup that looks really weirdly familiar and seems to have a really high IQ. So she has to sort of put the pieces together as to what the missing boy and the wolf have to do with each other in order to save the missing boy before the end of her camping trip.
Wow, that's a lot going on there, especially for an 11-year-old. My goodness.
Yeah, well, she tries to alert the police, and she tries to get them to help her. And to be fair, there are adults involved in this investigation, but because it's a middle grade novel, of course I wanted her to take center stage, and she's got a little bit of a Nancy Drew detective streak in her. So when she sees that the policemen aren't necessarily taking her seriously because she's a kid, she just decides, okay, well, if you're not going to listen to me, then I'm going to see what I can do myself.
Yes, I think the worst thing you can do when you're an adult is not take a teenager seriously, especially somebody as motivated as your character sounds.
Yeah. She's very mature for her age, and so it really bothers her when people think that just because she's only 11, she can't do things. Mm-hmm. And so she takes things into her own hands probably more than she should, and it gets her in a little bit of, well, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it gets her in a little bit of a scrape, as you'll see.
Now, in addition to having to figure out how she feels about this woman who might be her dad's new girlfriend, and we're on this camping trip together, and Dad, I thought you wanted to spend time with me. Who's this person here? There's other complications in her life too, right?
There are. So she actually has 3 parents. She has her dad and then her 2 moms, or biological mom and her mom's girlfriend, who are the people that she lives with most of the time. And then her dad sort of sees her on like a periodic, every weekend type basis. It's a pretty interesting little family unit they've got going there. And this is only the first book in the series, and because it's focused on the camping trip, you won't get to see too much of the rest of the family in this book. But the second book in the series is coming out in September, so just after this book, and you'll get to see a little more of the family dynamic there. Yeah.
You were sharing with me before the interview began that there are a lot of themes in this series that you really would have loved to have had a chance to read about when you were younger.
Yeah. So I kind of always knew that I was somewhere on the LGBTQ spectrum from a really young age, a surprisingly young age. From the time I was around, 9 or 10, I remember having a crush on this girl in my 3rd grade class, and I didn't know that it was a crush because I didn't know that that was an option because I didn't have exposure to it. So what I aim to do with this series of books is create a fun fantasy series that lots of different types of kids can enjoy you don't have to be part of the LGBTQ community to enjoy it because it's primarily a fantasy series. However, I wanted to incorporate a lot of different types of families and a lot of different types of sexualities and a lot of different cultural representation throughout the series in order to give representation to a bunch of different groups. So in the second book, for example, the supernatural character you're going to meet is a ghost ballerina named Nadia, and she is Cuban American. And I had a friend of mine who's also Cuban American help me with her pieces of the book, because half of the book is told in Alyssa's point of view, and half of the book is told in Nadia's point of view. So I had my friend there to sort of help me figure out how to authentically write such a character so that her culture came through in the story that I wanted to tell.
Wow, this sounds like a lot of fun for kids, and sounds like a really great jumping off point for a lot of conversations. I would guess that this series it would be wonderful for families to co-read together, and then talk about and during a family book club time or on the way to dance class.
Yeah, that's like exactly what I wrote this book series for. I hope that it's able to be read by kids and picked up at their local library, but I tried to include something that all families would enjoy. I tried to make plot lines that people of every age group are going to be interested in. The theme of the first book is very much about like accepting new things coming into your life and like learning how to deal with like changes, and the theme of the ballerina book is very much about forgiveness and the value of friendship. So I try to include themes that are very, hopefully, very important for parents to teach their kids, in the hopes that the parents want to read the book with their kids, open up to a variety of different discussions.
Yeah. Tell, please, everybody where they can go to find out more about you and find out more about your series.
You can go to ClaerieKavanugh.com. That's ClaerieKavanagh.com. All the information is there. My handle on all my social medias is at ClaerieKAuthor. And if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll be among the first group of people to get advanced copies of all of my books before they even go to my copy editor. So you'll be the first people to get the opportunity to get ARC copies of all my future books.
That's awesome. We've had a wonderful time speaking about Wilds, Warnings, and Little Wolves, a debut middle grade novel from our guest, Claerie Kavanugh. Hey, Claerie, thanks for spending time with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Claerie, and we hope you check out Wilds, Warnings, and Little Wolves. Hey, we also hope you connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, and at Jedley Magic on Twitter. We have lots of fun. It's also a great place to find out about any of our book giveaways. We are giving away tons and tons and tons of great books that will be a wonderful addition to your family library. Join us right now from Glendale in Arizona. I'm really, really excited to speak about this book. I think it's going to touch my heart. The name of the book is 10 Ballet Dancers. Please welcome to the show, Amanda Malek Ahmadi. Amanda, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Not too long ago, this was a time of year where we'd be incredibly busy because my daughter was a dancer, and this was the time of the year that she would be in dance competitions and preparing for her recital and it was something the whole family was involved in. So the months of April and May and June were just all revolving around dance.
I definitely had that experience also as a child growing up, dancing, all about recital coming up in June and the excitement for that. And I believe for us in April, costumes were starting to arrive, so we'd get to try on those costumes and have the enjoyment of showing other classes what we've been working on as we started to get closer and closer to recital.
Yeah. And now I understand that you are a dance teacher yourself.
I am. I teach the babies mainly, but I have had the pleasure of teaching all grade levels in the public school system.
Now, this is something new. I think it's a wonderful idea. You are actually teaching dance in the public schools?
Yes. So here in Arizona, many of the high school programs have that, and they were starting to develop a few in the middle schools, like the district I was in. They did have a middle school dance program also. That was kind of new. When I was growing up, there was just a high school dance program. And then what was new for me was in Florida being able to do the elementary school program. That wasn't something being offered in Arizona. So that was a wonderful experience because kids at that age, K through 5th grade, they're just such little sponges and they just want to try everything. And so it was super fun getting to challenge them and getting to see them just grow in their love of dance and just how they explored the movement.
And dance is a couple of things. I absolutely have to put this out there because not enough people appreciate this. Dancers are athletes. There is absolutely no question in my mind. Dancers are as much athletes as any tennis player, or football player, or ice skater. Dancing is an incredible athletic exercise, and that it's being taught in some schools, as I'm imagining as part of the physical education program, I think makes a lot of sense. And there's so much that kids can get out of dance. I know it's something that my daughter just really, it made a huge difference in her life. She learned so much from it. And it certainly is not just for girls.
Definitely not just for girls, and that's exactly why 10 Ballet Dancers got its name 10 Ballet Dancers and not 10 Ballerinas, because I dance with a professional contemporary company, and I did actually make the mistake when I first wrote this, and when the idea was dormant in my head, I had 10 ballerinas, and when I approached a couple publishers, I was saying 10 ballerinas. And then all of a sudden, when I was getting the dummy ready, which is the mock book that you sometimes show publishers, and with ballet being so niche, I wanted to show the publisher a book just in case they weren't familiar with dance movements and stuff, so they could see what would be happening on the pages. I got to thinking, oh, maybe Rachel, my director of the company, will let me take pictures of the company to put in there so we could see real people and see the movements. And then I thought to myself, why am I calling this 10 ballerinas? We have male dancers in our company. I want them to be represented, of course. So that's when I switched it to 10 ballet dancers.
So tell us about the story.
So it is, as a dance teacher, it was my goal to really represent dance as well as I could. So it follows the sequence of dance class where I have the dancers start at the bar and then do some of their bar work, move center floor, which is called au milieu, if you want to have that French term in there. That's not in the book, but just a little extra information for you. And then they move to go across the floor, and then they'll practice their routine. In the book, they also try on their costumes, which that's not going to happen every class, but it was just to help move the story along. And then something else you don't typically have in the class is the surprise at the end, but that was what helped add to the story. And as you're going through the story, you're counting down from 10 to 1, but there's a surprise in the middle there of what you get to. And you're introduced to ballet movements and the French terminology. Then in the back of the book, you'll find the ballet terms defined for you and how to pronounce them in case you're unfamiliar with the French terminology.
So what inspired you to write the book?
I've always wanted to be a writer. So when I was a little girl, I remember that first author visit, and it was from a man named Mr. Tom, and he brought the book Messy Cat. And I remember just staring at him in awe going, you can be an author and you can visit schools?
Obviously, 10 ballet dancers would be, really attractive to, the little girls and boys who are in dance class. But I'm thinking that this could be a fun book for kids who maybe haven't caught the dance bug yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a great introduction to dance. So, parents, if they danced before and want to get their kids excited about it, or just have a love of the ballet or a love of other dance forms and want to introduce their kids to the art, I think this is a great springboard to do that with. I also like to think that, dancers in their careers right now, or like dancers who danced before, would find some nostalgia in this book and just love to have it on their shelf, just as this represents the art that I was passionate about.
Yeah. And one of the things I loved about dance, too, is that it's really accessible, and it's something that everybody can participate in. Not everybody is going to reach the same levels, and there are obviously kids of different abilities. But one of the things I loved about dance is that if you were that dancer like my daughter who loved dance and it was a huge part of her life, but not her whole life, there was a place for her, and there was a way for her to get all the energy that she needed out. There was a level above that where one of her friends, was that, even further, where dance was all consuming. And then for the kids who, I like dance. I don't want to do it every moment of every day, but I like to get together with my friends and dance and move around. There's places for those kids too.
That is exactly right. Dance is so universal, and one of my favorite quotes is from modern dancer Jose Limon. Every man and woman has the innate ability to dance. And it's so true. Right now, we have our 14-month-old rainbow baby girl, and every time the music's on, she is just jamming, and it's really amazing. Her new favorite song is the Kim Possible song, because her brothers were playing that, and she will wait that intro, and then the chorus will start or whatnot, and she will start spinning in a circle, but she waits for it. And it's just the most adorable thing to see her. And, she got to experience dance when she was in the womb, because I'm one of those dancers that dancing is so much a part of me. When I'm injured or when I can't dance, you tell me I can't dance, I'm asking, when can I start dancing again? Dance is so much a part of me that I performed the night before she was born. And it all worked out. And then she came the next day. It was fantastic. But the company was like, it's never going to happen, Amanda. I'm like, yes, it is. And we made it.
That's wonderful. Oh, what a story. What a story for you to share as she grows. Hey, can you talk a little bit about just the benefits of dance and why it's a great investment of time and in some cases money?
So one time I remember on So You Think You Can Dance, Mia Michaels mentioned how she's like, dance is math. And she showed with one of her a piece of her choreography, like how, setting the positions and the timing that dancers have to think about. There's so much dancers have to think about. And it is, you'll see the math. And then you've got physics. So the fact that we're doing the turns and stuff like that. There was an old ice skating movie on the Disney Channel, and it was like this girl who was really into physics, and she applied it to ice skating. And you can do the same thing for dance, because as we turn, there's so much physics involved going on in there. And so besides just that, you're also getting the social interaction and just the musicality and the endorphins that exercise can, just make somebody happy. And you get that moment up on stage just to perform. And there are just so many things that dance can bring in, lifelong friends and all this stuff. And you can go back to the studio that you grew up at and just feel at home, like go take a class and just you walk in and you feel at home.
Well, I know people are going to want to know where they can go online to connect with you and to learn more about 10 ballet dancers.
So they can follow me on Instagram at author_Amanda. That's the one I'm most active on, and Twitter and Facebook have the same handle. And then my website is authormamanda.com. You can get the book on Amazon, also indiebound.org if you want to support your local bookstore, which is an amazing thing to do. And then the Small Tooth Dog Publishing Group, who has been the publisher of this book, they also sell it on their website, and you can just do 10balletdancers.com.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking with the author of 10 Ballet Dancers, Amanda Malek Ahmadi. Amanda, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're doing something a little bit different. We always encourage you to read with your kids. We also believe you should be gaming with your kids. And Bobby Lockhart, a video game creator, the creator of Important Little Games and Codemancer, he'll be here to celebrate some of the video games that he has created. And he also is here to remind us that it's a program or be programmed world. Really fascinating conversation that you don't want to miss on the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you're the author of a fantastic children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. Being a guest, it's fun. It's easy. It doesn't cost a thing. There's no need to pay anybody to facilitate your visit. All you need to do is go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Scroll on down to be a guest. We want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, Amanda Malek Ahmadi. Please be sure to check out 10 Ballet Dancers. Also want to thank Claerie Kavanugh, the author of Wilds, Warnings, and Little Wolves, a great middle grade novel. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Justina Thompson, Helen Frazier. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gave me. Most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.